Hi, welcome to my screencast regarding how to make a simple Excel graph with averages, standard deviation and error bars. Okay, so you probably get a data set that looks something similar to this, where we have our variables here, our trials, and we want an average because we have more than one trial, so we want to get an average, and we're going to do some standard deviation. So your data table would probably look something similar to this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to work out the averages or the mean. We could hand do it by adding them and then dividing by 5, or we can let Excel do the work. So we'll click in the box where it says average, which is there, and then we will type our average formula, which is equals average, open parentheses, and then you can type in the numbers if you like and put commas between them, or we can just select the data. So I'm going to select the data by highlighting it and then just pressing enter. There we have it, our average is done. And we can do that for each one. So equals average, open parentheses, highlight the data that we want to average, press enter, boom. Another way of doing it, once we've done the average for one cell, we can then highlight that cell, and then if you see at the bottom there's that square. If you press your cursor over the square, it goes to a black cross. If you click and then drag, what you're telling Excel is that you want to do the same calculation but with the numbers above in that cell. And so now it should calculate the average there. Okay, perfect. So we have our averages. We can do the same now for standard deviation. So I'm going to click in the box and I'm going to put the formula equals standard and then deviation dot s. Open the parentheses. And again, select the numbers that we need. So there's the numbers we need. Don't include the average. Boom. And then what I'm going to do is instead of typing it each time, I'm going to click into the box, select the drag arrow, drag it across, and it will do standard deviation into those 3 boxes. So there we have our raw data that has been processed. We've calculated the mean, and we've also calculated the standard deviation. So now the next point is that we want to actually plot this graph. Now this data table is wonderful. It shows us exactly what's there. It shows us the raw data, the processed data. It's great. However, it will not plot as an Excel graph because we need an x-axis and we need a y-axis. Axis, if we can spell. So in the x-axis, what's going to be in the x? Well, it's going to be the subsite concentration. Now we cannot put percentage because again, Excel gets a bit crazy. So we're going to put 1, move that away, 2, 3. And then our y-axis is going to be the averages. Okay, so the average reaction rate. Now, if I cut and paste, first of all, it's going in the wrong direction. And secondly, these cells have formulas in them, which really screws Excel up. So I'm just basically going to type in the numbers. So for 1%, we are going to have 15.4. For 2%, it was 31.4. And then for 3%, it was 61.6. Okay, so now we have data that we can plot. And so we're going to highlight the data, just like so. And then what we do is to make a graph or a chart, we go up to Insert. From Insert, I'm going to choose, because I know which graph I want an XY scatter plot. So I'm going to select that, and I want the one with a line with it. Scatter plot with smooth lines and markers. So I'll select that, and then we have our very, very basic graph. So the next thing I need to do is I need to add the error bars to it. Okay, the standard deviation. So I'm going to put that data here. I'm going to put the standard deviation data here. And so for the first arrow, our standard deviation is the 1.1. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to make sure that it's calculated. So equals standard deviation, open the parentheses, and I'm going to do these numbers again. Okay, just like so. I'm not going to cut and drag this time because it doesn't quite know where the numbers are coming from. So I'm just going to put in the thing, Okay, select the data I want, and then lastly, in this box, equals standard deviation, and then the final data. So now I've got my standard deviation. In order to add the standard deviation to the graph or the chart, I'm going to highlight the outside edge. And then I'm going to go up to chart design to make sure that the menu bar for my graph comes up. And then I'm going to go to add chart element. And from there, I'm going to select error bars. And then I'm going to select more because I want to make custom ones. I want ones with the data that I have calculated. So more error bars, and then I'm going to go to the bottom where it says custom, and then I'm going to specify the values, the plus and the minuses. Now, as you can see, the chart's gone a bit crazy. Leave it for now, don't worry. Specify value. I'm going to click on the box that allows me to select data, and I'm going to select the positive data, so the pluses. So I'm going to add this plus. Click on it again. Okay, so there's the numbers. And then for the negative data, click on the select box again. Select the same data because it's plus or minus the same. Click on the box. And so I've got the plus and the minuses. And I'm going to say OK. I'm going to get rid of this box here. Now, as you can see, I have two starts of error bars. I have the vertical and the horizontal. I don't need the horizontal. So I'm going to click on it. And so now, as you can see, I've highlighted the horizontal. I'm now going to right click and I'm going to say delete. Now I have my chart that has my averages plotted and the standard deviation for each data set plotted as well. Now this is all well and good, apart from my chart is very basic. I need my axes labels on. So again, I'm going to click on the outside chart, make sure my chart design menu is up, and I'm going to add chart element again. And from here, I'm going to add axes title, primary horizontal. So what is on the horizontal? Well, it's substrate concentration, in this case. And it's in percentages. Okay, then I'm just going to delete that. Okay, and then I'm going to do my axis titles, primary vertical. What's this? Reaction time. And I believe that was in seconds. Okay, so far so good. So I've got my substrate concentration labeled, I have my reaction time labeled, and then the chart title, what can I call it? Average reaction time at different concentrations or different substrate concentrations. Okay. And there I have a graph that tells me a title, I have the axes labeled, and I have my curve there. Okay, so for my actual report, I won't use this table here. Okay, this is just for plotting purposes, but for my report, I would definitely cut and paste this table because it has my raw data, my process data, my standard deviation, and then I would also put in the chart that has the titles, the axes titles, and the actual graph itself. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Any questions? You know where to find me.